This is GKW. Welcome into another edition of Good Karma Wrestling. I am Gabe Neitzel from ESPN Milwaukee, along with Brian Rowitz from ESPN in West Palm. And, of course, the new chairman of the board. He's throwing his hat in the ring right away. Jonathan Hood, ESPN 1000 in Chicago. And, boys, that's where we start. I mean, this is the biggest news in wrestling. When any time wrestling news ends up on the front page of ESPN.com, that's kind of where we have to start the podcast. Of course, the allegations coming out against Vince McMahon, the story that he paid somebody he had an affair with who was a WWE employee $3 million, apparently $1 million up front and then $2 million over the next 5 years, that she cannot say anything. She cannot talk about their relationship. She can't say anything bad about Vince McMahon. This led to an investigation from the board at WWE, which has uncovered a number of other potential payoffs for Vince. The question now becoming, did he use WWE money for this? It appears he used his own money for the payoffs and for the non-disclosure agreements that he made these women sign. But it's not a good day for WWE with the story coming out from the Wall Street Journal.
Well, there's no question about that. You are right, Gabe. We have to find out whether or not the money was used. Was it, if it was through the WWE coffers, that's a major problem. It's a publicly funded company, and you really just can't do that. And to know that John Laurinaitis is also part of this as well, the way it read is as if this woman that's alleging that this happened was also involved with John Laurinaitis. It's just a disaster for the WWE. Not from a PR standpoint, but just internally. A company that should be able to know better, they just don't. And so the WWE has been in scandals before with Vince McMahon. There was sexual assault claims with Pat Patterson and Terry Garvin, with on-air talent, hitting on wrestlers in the mid-'80s. There was the Mel Phillips ring announcer scandal in which he was sexually assaulting ring boys. There was the steroid trial from the early 1990s. There was also Owen Hart's death in Kansas City. So I got to tell you, my initial reaction to this is that I was not surprised that this story came out, because we know that Vince McMahon has been in controversies before and is able to get around these controversies. However, it's just a different day in 2022. The idea that there was a non-disclosure agreement, you were having an affair, a non-marital affair, an extramarital affair with an employee, that says a lot about McMahon and the WWE right now. I'm not sure how they get around this at all this time, Brian.
Well, yeah, that's the thing, though. Like, you mentioned all those past scandals, and that was a different WWE. Like, back then, you could dismiss the WWF. It's like, oh, that's just that circus stuff. That's just pro wrestling. This is a publicly traded company now. This is someone that deals with NBC and Universal and Make-A-Wish and all these foundations. I think that really changes things this time around.
Well, in the steroid scandal that you mentioned, Jay Hood, that went to trial, they're in partnership with a media company, WWE is, to turn that into a TV series. Like, they're taking that scandal and now they're making money off of it. But I agree with Jay Hood, where this news drops and, I mean, you see some of the numbers involved and you're going, whoa. And it's obviously from that prospect. But the shocking part is this seems like it's a leak coming from the board, which is loaded with McMahon family members, people that Vince McMahon has put into place. That's where the surprising aspect, at least for me, that this is coming from. It looks like it's a leak from the board because they're the ones who know about it. They're the ones who are putting out the investigation, trying to find out more information, not only about this case in particular, but the past ones that may or may not have involved John Laurinaitis as well. Now, it is worth noting that Vince McMahon, I can't imagine he goes anywhere. Like, he would have to step down on his own accord. He has the controlling interest in the company. He has the controlling votes. Like, so it's not like he can be voted out. That does not seem like, to me, like it would be something that would happen. And Vince stepping down on his own accord also seems like it wouldn't happen. So it seems like they're already setting up potentially for a fall guy. John Laurinaitis takes the fall, and then WWE goes on with some sort of statement about how they're going to try to be better, right? Like, that seems to be the end game here.
I do find it interesting the timing of Stephanie McMahon stepping away from the WWE a month ago. Now, she was a major part of the company. Now, she's still on the board. We want to make sure people understand that she's still part of the board of directors, but just the idea that she stepped away from the company. And also, Vince McMahon not saying good things about his daughter and in what the job that she was doing. I found that to be interesting as well. So I thought that Stephanie, I'm sure, guys, kind of knew that this was coming down. And all of a sudden, she kind of just disappears from the company for a while.
Yeah, I mean, this year alone, I mean, Shane, Stephanie, Triple H, like all of them have sort of stepped away or removed themselves in some shape or form. And it's only, June right now. So I think there is something to that. And to Gabe's point about the board's only about, I think, 12 people. So it obviously came from somewhere, and half of those are McMahon's. Like, that might speak to something also about the working environment that is the WWE right now.
Absolutely.
So what do you think, Gabe? You think that, so Vince is going to be there until he dies. Even with this scandal, he's not stepping away from the company. And because there's so many McMahons on the board, I think that they'll back him as well. But I think it's interesting right now that Nick Khan, who's part of the WWE as the president, continues to try to find ways to raise the price, having stadium shows and all these television deals. I strongly believe that WWE will sell at some point. If they want to sell, this would be a great time with the scandal. But I believe at some point, probably during the existence of this show, I believe that WWE will sell to the highest bidder.
Ooh, I go back and forth on that all the time because you said Vince McMahon is going to die in gorilla position. Like, he's just going to be, and he's planning on being there tomorrow night. Like, there's scandal all around him, and the reports are he is going to be at SmackDown tomorrow night. So, part of me, just as a fan from the outside, seeing Vince McMahon and the way he operates, like the thought of WWE being sold and the thought of him getting that much money, like, that's appealing to him. But actually selling and actually cashing in, like, to me, he would just much rather, for his ego, like, oh, look at this company I bought from my dad in 1982. Look how much I could have sold this for. I just have a hard time believing Vince McMahon, as controlling as he is, at the end of the day, even embroiled in scandal like he is right now, and this may get worse, we'll find out in the future. I have a hard time believing that at the end of the day, he would actually go, yeah, I'm going to sell this company, because then he loses control, and I just don't see that from Vince.
See, I completely agree with you, Gabe. Like, I don't see him ever stepping away. But in today's day and age, like Hood talked about, like this being a different culture, there could be that conversation where I don't know who it is, but someone's like, hey, you can't do this anymore. Like, we don't want to take the power away. Somehow they find a way. Like, you need to be the one. If you want to seem like you're in control, you're the one making the decision to sell. But you can't be the face of this company anymore.
But who is that? Who is that, Jay Hood? Who can have that conversation with Vince?
Well, none of his family members, because going back to the Pat McAfee interview, he's down on Triple H, down on Shane, down on Stephanie, definitely down on Stephanie now, because Stephanie's job, for those that need to understand, Steph was supposed to be in a position to try to get more and more sponsors to be part of the WWE. And UFC's done a great job of getting their sponsors. The WWE's got their share of sponsors, but they're not making the revenue that they thought that they would from a sponsorship standpoint. And that was Steph's job. And it just hasn't come to fruition. And Vince has been down on her. As a matter of fact, Stephanie's been replaced in that position of someone supposed to get sponsorships for the WWE. So I'm not sure who's gonna have that conversation. It's not Triple H either. They took NXT away from him while he was sick.
Right.
Yeah. So Nick Khan, like the guy he brought in from the outside, I can't imagine that Nick Khan's that guy. I mean, Shawn Michaels is now the face, I guess, of the creative of NXT 2.0. Can't imagine it's going to be coming from good old HBK, some sort of come to Jesus heart-to-heart moment with Vince. So that's another reason why I have a hard time believing he sells at the end of the day, because even if it's the best business decision for Vince, I don't see anybody talking him into it. I don't see anybody there that could actually have that conversation to that he might. And it's not even like, oh, he's going to listen to this person. It's at this point, oh, he might listen to this person. And I don't even think that person exists.
Let's go back in time for context, Brian. We talked about the Mel Phillips scandal, the sexual assault with Pat Patterson and Terry Garvin, the allegations there backstage and behind the scenes, steroid trial, Owen Hart's death. But there's one other one that we don't hear enough about and that we want to talk about here just momentarily. 1992, there was a show that was hosted by Geraldo Rivera, Now It Can Be Told. And it was talking about Rita Chatterton. She was the first female referee in the WWE. She had quite the story to tell.
I know Vince unzipped his pants.
This woman claims McMahon told her sex was part of her job.
That was worth $500,000 a year.
Her story when we continue our investigation in a moment.
His pants. And he took my hand and he kept putting my hand on his penis. He started telling me that he knew I didn't have a job. I had left Frito-Lay because of him. He knew that I had a daughter and that he could either make me or break me. The choice was mine. And he made me have oral sex with. And he started to get really excited. And I pulled away, and he got really angry and said that it was worth $500,000 a year. And when I said no, he said that I'd better satisfy him. And he started pulling my pants off. And he pulled me on top of him. And he satisfied himself through intercourse.
Afterwards, Rita Marie said she worked for the WWF only 3 or 4 more times.
Now, the referee, Rita Chatterton, told that story to Geraldo Rivera on Now It Can Be Told. She did not go to the police. The WWE sued Rita for defamation, and the WWE eventually dropped the lawsuit because that was right up against the steroid trial. And so Jerry McDevitt, the longtime attorney for the WWE, said, okay, let's drop this. We got to make sure that we're ready for the steroid trial. So even though she told her side of the story, Vince and the WWE didn't like that. They tried to sue her, and then they dropped the lawsuit. So the reason why we want to give that context because, as we mentioned, there's been scandals a lot in the WWE during Vince McMahon's tenure.
Well, you got to imagine that this is certainly, I mean, and don't know if Rita signed and a non-disclosure, back in the early 90s or not, but you got to imagine that these are the type of things, and this wasn't something that you had to dig that hard to find, Jay Hood. You remembered it happening. Like, it doesn't seem like the board is going to have any sort of issues having their private investigator come up with more instances of misconduct by Vince McMahon and other members of WWF or WWE.
But I think it's different also just, you follow the dollars. The dollars make sense there. Like Fox, like they are on national TV now. If Fox says, listen, like you can't run this company and be on our network. If NBC says, hey, you can't be on Peacock and, do all this sort of stuff, like that's the type of stuff that forces him out, that sort of pushes him out the door because it's a different world. Like you're not just, pro wrestling, like, you laugh at the people that watch it. You are publicly traded. You are dealing with these multi-billion-dollar companies. It's a different standard now. And like not saying that what was right then is not right now. Like it's all wrong. Right. It's just held to a different standard now with the role that you're in.
Yeah, you're 100% right. I mean, there's the reason that WWE in their last quarterly report had such great numbers, $1.1 billion, $181 million of revenue, is because of these TV contracts. That's how sports, that's how sports make all their money. WWE is included in that. The NFL salary cap goes up and up and up because they sell their product for that much money on these networks. And these are the same networks dealing with WWE, clearly not as a high of a monetary level, but they're still investing their dollars into WWE. And you're 100% right, Brian. Like that's the only way is if they start threatening to pull them off of Peacock, because that's a great deal for them. If they start threatening to pull them off Fox, which has been such a good deal for WWE, that's when you can actually have that serious conversation of whether or not Vince McMahon is going to be leading WWE into the future.
I mean, in the era of Harvey Weinstein and so many others that have been involved in scandals, and it's not about cancel culture, it's about what's right. Mm-hmm. And again, if these stories are accurate from the Wall Street Journal and from those that are around the board of directors for the WWE, like again, I don't know how this ends. I would agree with you, Gabe, that I believe Laurinaitis will be the fall guy. But again, Vince is a guy here that feels like he's done no wrong. He's Teflon. He's all the things that we've talked about. He's been able to survive. And you're right, Brian. It was a different time. It wasn't taken seriously enough. But in 2022, when we're aware of all this and things that shouldn't have been happening, man, the cover-ups and the trail will end at some point where it's like you just can't do these things anymore. So we'll see how this ends.
Yeah, we certainly will. Excited to talk about some other things other than this in the world of professional wrestling, but that's the top story. That's where we had to lead. Again, anytime professional wrestling is being talked about on the Wall Street Journal front page of ESPN.com, clearly something that's going to lead off here at GKW. But something else we like to do, Brian, after that is our other top three stories in the world of professional wrestling. We like to call it the 3 count.
All right, guys, we'll start on the bottom as well. Jeff Hardy this week arrested for the 3rd time in the last 3 years due to DUI. AEW has suspended him without pay until he completes treatment and maintaining his sobriety. Is it time Jeff Hardy moves on from pro wrestling?
I would say yes. If he can't professionally wrestle without self-medicating, then I think it's time. But if he can somehow use his brother or the support system that AEW now would have, there for him, I hope he figures out whatever he's going through, man, because it's been a lot for him to go through the addiction issues he's gone through, to go through the alcohol issues he's gone through. I hope he figures it out. And I think everybody who's a fan of professional wrestling, has been a fan of Jeff Hardy, certainly wants him to be able to figure this out.
Well, we've got so many things that we got to tackle here on GKW, but of course, the Forbidden Door is right around the corner in Chicago, in an A-town like Chicago, at the Allstate Arena, and New Japan is on the front burner as well as AEW, guys.
Yeah, so we're going to welcome in. We have a special guest on this week's Good Karma Wrestling. We welcome in from New Japan Pro Wrestling, from the United Empire. He is one half of the IWGP Tag Team Champions, won it just 4 days ago at Dominion. We welcome in Jeff Cobb.
What's going on, guys?
What up, bro? What's up? Welcome to GKW.
Oh, thanks for having me on.
Well, we got to ask you, first of all, go ahead, Gabe, because
I was going to say, on the topic,
this yellow pad, I got all this stuff for Jeff Cobb. But you go right ahead.
Jeff, you just won, for the second time, IWGP Tag Team Championship. Coming up Sunday, June 26th, just 10 days away, Forbidden Door. I got to imagine you're anticipating you're going to eventually be on that card, right?
I would assume so. I've been tagged a lot in social media stuff about saying like FTR should put up the Ring of Honor tag champions against us. We should put up our IWGP tag champions against them. And then Roppongi Vice gets thrown in the mix somehow. I haven't been given official word, but I'm going to give you guys a little spoiler. It doesn't matter who it is because they're going to get their ass whipped to myself and the Great Okan. It's as simple as that.
Okay, I'm writing that down right now. So, Jeff, I need to find out from you, because we've seen your career being part of New Japan and being part of that strong style. What was your initial reaction to being in New Japan and the type of wrestling that they have? How were you able to adjust?
Well, it was definitely a big difference coming from mainly doing indies to my first tour of New Japan. Up into, I think it was a 2017 Tag League was my first I guess tour with New Japan. And up until that point, pretty much I was just doing indies every weekend, like 3-4 shows a week. Just trying to get my name out there and trying to get more notoriety behind myself. And it was definitely a very humbling learning experience going to that style. I've loved that style since I watched the old UWFI, the old All Japan, some of the old New Japan stuff, like just the Japanese style it's such a it's a beautiful form of professional wrestling, and I just love that style, like the hard hitting style. That's definitely I mean, if you've seen some of my matches, that's definitely my style, and I tend to veer more towards that now, just because I do it all the time, and I just love it.
From a wrestling standpoint, obviously, it might be a little different with you involved in it. How fun is it to be part of something like Forbidden Door and get New Japan in front of some different eyes and get AEW in front of some different eyes as well?
I think it's a good joint mutual thing that we're doing. Like you did mention, there's a lot of AEW fans. I mean, a lot of them do follow pretty much every art, every form of professional wrestling. But then there's also a portion that doesn't know Japanese wrestling too well, whether it be any Japanese wrestling or let alone New Japan. And then the same goes and vice versa. There's a lot of fans that are in Japan specifically that are just huge New Japan fans or huge Japanese wrestling fans that don't know the American side of it, except with the exception of WWE. So it's good to have that nice crossover. It's like a cross promotion, and I'm liking the fact that it is getting eyes on both products on both sides of the world.
So New Japan Pro Wrestling, AEW, Forbidden Door is coming up Sunday, June 26th, but so many other New Japan Pro Wrestling events to keep an eye out for as well. If you're in Los Angeles, Ignition taping happening on June 19th. If you're in Charlotte, July 24th, High Alert is going to be happening there. In your career, Jeff, you're also a part of Ring of Honor. You're a former world television champion for Ring of Honor. So when they decided to kind of shut everything down, were you glad that it eventually found a home and that Ring of Honor is going to be continuing at least with pay-per-views in the meantime, and that legacy is going to continue?
Definitely. Ring of Honor played a huge part in my career. I had a good, nice year and a half run with them, and I got to meet and learn from some of the best minds in the wrestling business. Guys like Delirious and Jay Lethal, learning from them. Because I mean, when you think of Ring of Honor, Jay Lethal is definitely ranked. I mean, you could put him in your Mount Rushmore of Ring of Honor if you want. Some people do, and just learning from him was such a fun time. And even before my time in Ring of Honor, Ring of Honor definitely played a huge factor in like professional wrestling as a whole. They had some of the best matches that I've witnessed, not firsthand, but like through DVDs and the streaming service and whatnot. So I'm happy that Ring of Honor has a platform that they can showcase some of the newer stars, and at the same token, hopefully we'll be able to see some of the old stuff as well. So, I mean, if it's a streaming service, and that'd be great, because I'd love to go back and watch some of the classic matches of Ring of Honor.
Jeff, who is your best friend in the business? You got a lot of travels up and down the roads in the Indies and also in New Japan, a Ring of Honor. Who's your guy in the business that you like to talk to, that you rely on, kind of lean on?
I think it kind of changes throughout. I guess it depends on where I'm at or where I spend most of my time. When I was starting out in like Bay Area, California area, I mean, when I was starting off in Hawaii, I had my little circle of buddies out there that I still talk to this day. When I moved out to like the West Coast, California, I did a lot of traveling with JR Kratos, who's on New Japan Strong, as well as Timothy Thatcher, who was with NXT, and then now he's with I don't know how long he's with, but he just debuted on Noah. So those are my those two, and also Dave Dutra. Like those three were like my riding buddies. Like we would always go up and down California from Sacramento, drive 6 hours to LA, do a show, turn around, right back, and then I had a day job at the time, so we'd do it on a Sunday morning, leave at like 6 a.m., drive down there, do a couple of shows, turn around, drive right back Sunday night, get back around 2 a.m. and then go to work the next day. But thank God I don't have to do that anymore. But those were good times. And then and then when you go over to like New Japan, you tend to kind of float towards the other gaijins, if you will. So it just all depends on the setting. But I still have my good friends to this day where, you know, if we don't contact on a daily or a weekly, whether it be monthly, it's still like there's no time has passed. So yeah, I mean, I still got a good core group. I won't say who it is now because yeah, that's just for office purposes. I won't say that, but yeah.
Oh man, you're with the homies at GKW. You can say it. You're not gonna break the news here. No one's listening. It's just us.
I mean, I'll let you guys know as soon as when we get off the air. Like,
Oh,
but yeah,
unbelievable. Kayfabe to the end.
In terms of wrestling, Jeff, your style is so unique. Just, you know, your size, your speed. It's not something you often see from guys. Who are some of the guys that you watch either coming up or when you were learning that you said, hey, this is something I sort of want to be like in the ring?
Well, when I was younger, I mean, I loved, like, Hulk Hogan got me into wrestling.
Okay.
As I got a little bit older and closer to start training, I definitely loved the way that Mr. Perfect Kurt Hennig used to just, I mean, do everything, like wrestling, selling, just moveset. Like, he was really cool. So like early on in my career, like if you find some old Hawaii stuff, I did a lot of Kurt Hennig stuff with a little mixture of Kurt Angle and Taz as well. So those were the three. And then when I moved to California, my trainer out there mentioned you should check out like Gary Albright stuff, some Japan Vader, where you're just like clocking these fools in the head. So he's like, yeah, watch those. I'm like, well, I don't really want to be doing that. But definitely like Gary Albright was somebody that was really cool because he was another bigger dude, but he had an amateur wrestling background, a very, very, very prolific amateur wrestling background, and he was just suplexing fools left and right. And I saw that and I was like, that dude's cool, man.
So, Jeff, I've mentioned you're one half of the IWGP Tag Team Champs. You are a former ROH World Television Champ, former Never Openweight Champ in New Japan Pro Wrestling as well. You've had a lot of great experiences. What else is left on the list? What other dream matches do you have, opponents you want to face?
On a selfish level, I definitely want to face Shingo Takagi again. You know, a lot of people liked our match from 2020's Wrestle Kingdom. He said a lot of people said it was just like big meaty men hitting each other, which was true. But
Right.
it was for the Never Open Championship, which I wanted back. Unfortunately, I came out on the short end that night, but you know, I definitely want to fight him again. And you know, with the G1 coming up, which is pretty cool because they announced some of the actually they announced the whole field. And looking at it, there's some new guys that are coming in that I haven't had a chance to fight in the New Japan ring. As soon as the card was announced, I already got tagged in a ton of stuff, and everybody's like, well, we want to see you and Jonah wrestle in the New Japan ring. And there's been a few teases on some of the New Japan Strong stuff. And you know, I don't make the blocks, so but the only thing is I mean, hopefully if we're not in the same block, then I guess we'd have to fight in the finals. And if you remember last year, I went 8-0 in the G1, and but although Okada did beat me in the final day, that's another one that I want to run back again. I need another match with Okada.
Jeff, for those that have not seen this, could you tell everybody about the experience of being in Japan, in which, you know, that wrestling's front page news, just like baseball is in that country, where you have all the media that's covering it like it's the NBA Finals or like any other sport in America? Can you just give us context of what that's like, the coverage of Japan for what you guys do?
It's great because we have support from not just wrestling magazines, but also from mainstream media. Whether that be TV shows, the news. In fact, on my flight about 2 days ago from Japan to St. Louis for AEW Dynamite last night, on the flight there, they had New Japan as one of the choices you could watch on one of the TV shows. It wasn't a live one, but it was from a few months ago, and it was pretty cool. Like a couple months prior to that, I just so happened to look on the TV on one of my flights that I was taking, and it was myself and Okada from the Tokyo Dome. So I mean, it was cool to see. So that's, when you have the support of not just the wrestling niche, the little bubble of wrestling magazines or online wrestling articles, when you have the support of newspapers and TV shows and Japan Airlines, a big airlines in Japan, then you're doing something right, where they're seeing it not just from an entertainment standpoint, but from a sports perspective as well. And I really appreciate that, and I love that. I love that aspect of it, of being in Japan for that reason.
You've mentioned social media a couple times, people tagging you, wanting to face FTR, wanting to face Jonah. We talk about the negativity on social media a lot, but what are some of the positives from your perspective as a wrestler to having social media and fans having such access to you?
I mean, it's definitely pros and cons. Definitely the pros is you get to meet a lot of people that you sometimes wouldn't meet on your shows alone. There's a ton of like New Japan fans that aren't in just mainland or in America and Japan. You've got some people from like Asia, from Europe, that you don't get to see on a regular, but you can still interact with them, and you can still, they could still reach out to you and send you, whether it's a positive or negative message. And usually, and I'm very grateful and thankful that a majority of them are positive messages. Usually the negative ones, I kind of just don't even bother with that. Because it can be a very toxic place, and then you just go down this rabbit hole of arguing with somebody online, and that's kind of silly. So, I mean, I got better stuff to do in my day. I don't want to be yelling at somebody
exactly
across the world, who could be real, who could be not, who has in their profile picture is Sasha Banks. So am I arguing with Sasha Banks? No, I'm arguing with somebody. So, like those kind of things, I try not to get sucked into the negative side. I love to focus on the positive side, and just hearing from like fans from where I don't, unfortunately, if a fan from Portugal messages me or sends me, like, tags me in something, the chances of us meeting are very, very rare. But in that brief interaction, if I can give that person some sort of positivity, and I'm all for it.
New Japan Pro Wrestling coming up, Los Angeles, June 19th. That's coming up this Sunday. Ignition, July 24th. They're going to be in Charlotte for High Alert. And, of course, Forbidden Door featuring AEW and New Japan Pro Wrestling, Sunday, June 26th. He is one half of the IWGP Tag Team Champions, a member of United Empire. Jeff Cobb, thank you so much for taking your time and joining GKW
Wait a minute.
tonight.
Don't be wrapping the interview, man. I got a lot of questions to ask. I don't even find out what's going to happen
right
at
here.
Forbidden Door.
He hasn't got no questions in, man.
Come on, man. I got all these questions. 50th Wrestling in Hawaii.
If we have time.
I mean, oh, man.
You can get some rest. Enjoy your night, Jeff. You can get some rest. You travel a lot.
Hey, I'm all your guy. I'm all yours until you tell me to get off the air. So,
well, here, let's throw one out. I got one more. It's part of the 3 count. Tomorrow night on SmackDown, a guy you've held tag team titles with, Matt Riddle, competing for a world title. Is Matt Riddle going to be a world champion tomorrow night?
You know what? That was my tag partner. We were tag champs at PWG. I'm going to go ahead. I'm not a betting man, but I mean, that fool can go in the ring. So I'm gonna go with the new champ.
Oh, wow.
Called for a new champ.
Yeah, man. And good for him, too. If that's the case, at least he's in the mix. That's what I like, Jeff, that he's in the mix. He's worked hard. He's on a nice platform. Hopefully it works for him.
Yeah. I mean, that's, I always support my friends. And, regardless if we're on the same company or a different company, it doesn't matter. That he's my boy. I'm going to support him no matter what.
Hoodie, you have, is that the last one? I mean, I know you've got the legal pad.
Yeah,
right.
Jeff's gonna come on with this again, and I'm gonna hit him with the 50 states wrestling and the Rock's mom. We'll talk about Hawaii wrestling. We got a lot to talk about, man. I mean, that's all right. You know, Jeff, next time we'll get to all this stuff in the bottom margin here. We'll get to all that stuff.
Or why don't we give you at least one? At least one.
There you go. Come on, we'll get one
There
more
we
out.
go. One more. Throw one more at him, J Hood.
Oh, okay. Well, I do want to ask about wrestling in Hawaii in that scene. I do have a book in my library down the hall here about 50 states wrestling and how important it was for the state, Rocky Maivaia's, the Rock, his mom running the organization. What do you know about that, and what's the wrestling scene in Hawaii?
Is that the one that was written by Ed Francis?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Ed Francis. Yes.
When he, it's a funny story. When he, when that book was published, myself and one of my other friends in the Hawaii wrestling scene, we were at the grand debut of it at a luncheon. So I got to meet Ed Francis, and Russ Francis came down. So it was pretty cool to see them. Me personally, I didn't know too much about the Hawaii scene when I was younger, just for the fact that I only knew WWF. And then whatever I went to the store, I would buy WWF magazines. And then at the same time, I would also buy like Insider Wrestling or PWI, anything I could find that was wrestling, like I would spend my money on, and I would just buy them. So I would read about things, but I didn't know about the local scene when I was younger. My first interaction with the local scene was in, I'll say like 2000, when I moved back to Hawaii after I graduated high school. And I saw that they had there was an NWA affiliate at the time. There was a NWA Hawaii, and they had a local show on like public access or something. And I would catch it every now and then. And then because of that, I wanted to start training wrestling right out of high school. At the time, it was a guy named Lars Anderson was running the training, and he wanted $3,000, and I had to pay it in full. And I was like, I'm just an 18-year-old kid out of I was 17 at the time. I was a 17-year-old kid out of high school. I don't have $3,000 to my name. I don't even have $300 to my name, let alone $3,000. So that kind of just killed my dreams to be a pro wrestler in 2000. But I mean, I guess it all kind of lines up. But yeah, so I mean, throughout the years, I know from 2000 on, it was kind of in a mid to lower. It was kind of fluctuating a little bit. I know with that NWA affiliate, they brought in guys like Chono and Liger and really, really big names. They brought in Samoa Joe, AJ Styles. So they had some big names coming into Hawaii. They didn't really advertise too well. So these shows had these big names, but they only had maybe 200 people. So it was kind of rough. When I started training in 2000, at the beginning of 2009, there were two companies in Hawaii. There was the one that I stuck with, and then there was also still that NWA affiliate, kind of, sort of. But that one, they were doing shows in front of nobody really. Wow. And at the time when I started training, they were in a growing phase as well. My first show where I worked security and did ring crew, we had about 15 people. So, and then it started going on an upward swing. So by the time I left Hawaii to move to the mainland USA, I mean, we're averaging 200 to 300 a show, which was a big climb. And then on our bigger shows that we did twice a year, at a nice little ballroom community center kind of thing, we do 500, 600. And we still would have good people coming through. We had a bunch of Dragon Gate guys, I know Shingo, Sema, they all came through. Dragon Gate would stop in Hawaii, coming back from when they were doing Dragon Gate USA stuff. So they would stop in Hawaii for a couple of days, pick up a booking, and just relax on the beach. So that was pretty cool about that. And then as of now, there's one company in Hawaii running, and because of the pandemic, it kind of derailed they were on a good little upward swing. Interest in pro wrestling in Hawaii was coming back up. Pandemic hit, kind of killed it a little bit. So they just ran their first show last month. From what I saw and talked to people, it was a sellout. They're doing a little bit smaller arena, trying to get their feet on the ground running again, and hopefully I'll be able to make it out there for a show or two, just to kind of help and give back a little bit, and give them. I mean, I don't want to say I want to give them a rub, because I mean that's kind of a. I don't want to say it like that. I don't want to sound
yes.
You don't want to say it. We can say it. You would give them a rub. I mean, you're one half of the IWGP Tag Team Champions, for crying out loud.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely want to give back and help out if I can. So if that opportunity arises and I have time in this crazy schedule, I would love to go back and help out as much as I can.
Jeff, it has been a pleasure. I, for one, really hope you find a way onto that Forbidden Door card, even though, as you said, it doesn't matter. You're going to kick some ass anyway. Doesn't matter who you're going up against. But we certainly appreciate the time. Look forward to talking to you again on GKW.
No, my pleasure. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Thanks, man.
Again, Jeff Cobb. Check out New Japan Pro Wrestling. Again, if you're in Los Angeles, coming up, they're going to be there this Sunday for an Ignition taping. July 24th, they're going to be in Charlotte for High Alert. And, of course, they have Forbidden Door coming up June 26th. Did you get enough questions in, Jay Hood? I mean, you got to save time for the next appearance he's going to make.
I know, right? I'm glad he was gracious with his time, and I'm really looking forward to him seeing what he's going to do with AEW, more from New Japan. He's part of the G1 he mentioned, so I'm rooting for him, because that's a powerhouse of a guy. I'm looking forward to his next thing. All right, so we left off at Jeff Hardy, I think.
We talked about, real quick with Kyle, we talked about it before we went on. How do you book him for Forbidden Door? Like, where's he going to be?
Well, he would be in the main event against, or one of the main events against Jay White. I mean,
okay, seriously. That's why.
I mean,
they seem to be teasing tag titles, but then like Gabe brought up the Bucks winning last night. Does that change things?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what you do with the Bucks, because the Bucks are clearly going to be on this card. I don't know who they go up against, but with Adam Cole potentially not being involved in the IWGP title scene, maybe they do a trios match. Who knows? But again, they seem to have been teasing some sort of FTR versus United Empire, tag titles versus tag titles. And again, which I think would be unique because of Jeff Cobb's history with ROH as well. I think that could be potentially be interesting. Plus, no offense to the Bucks, FTR has been the best tag team in AEW this year.
Yep.
That is correct. All right. So go back to number 3. You were talking about Jeff Hardy, right? Okay.
Jeff Hardy. Is it time for Hardy to move on from the wrestling world?
Vince, on the way up to Jeff Cobb, down to Jeff Hardy. Peaks and valleys here at GKW. Okay. So with Jeff Hardy, quickly, because this is going to have to be the speed round of GKW. Yeah. We got a lot to get to. I'll make it brief.
Well, Jeff Cobb was number 1, so this is number 2. We're moving along.
Oh, is it? Okay, cool. With Jeff Hardy, I agree with Gabe. The problem is that companies keep hiring him. That's the problem. Jeff needs to take care of himself first. I don't need to see another Swanton bomb. I don't need to see him, flying off a ladder anymore. I don't need to see that. I want Jeff Hardy to take care of himself and his family. And here's the problem. He goes to the WWE, and then he just jumps the rail and leaves. Now, if I'm another company, I'm thinking, well, if he's going to do that to Vince, is he going to do that to me? But no, Tony Khan just had to have the Hardys. He just had to bring them back together. And see how that was short-lived? I'm old enough to remember a Jeff Hardy in which TNA thought this is the right thing. We'll put the heavyweight championship on him, and he comes to the arena in Orlando completely hammered. High, whatever it was, he was not prepared to wrestle, and he had to take on Sting. And it was just, Eric Bischoff just pretty much propped him up in the corner so he could just be there for the 3 count to beat Sting, for Sting to beat him. And he was completely hammered, but was in the ring. So he needs to take care of himself. That's the whole thing. I don't need to see him wrestle again. What I need to see him is for him to be happy and sober, and we can remember the good moments from Jeff Hardy.
Yeah, I completely agree. And to your point, Hood, like AEW, I think they're doing what they have to do. But even if they were to release him, he cleans up. He says he's good to go. There are indie companies lined up to hire him, to say, hey, let's get that moment.
WWE will bring him back. There's no question they bring him back. There's no question.
So, like, that's the unfortunate part. And, like, it's crazy. Like, 3 arrests in the last 3 years. he's fortunate in the fact that like no one else has gotten hurt. Like we see it in football. We saw it with Henry Ruggs last year. Like it was a one-time mistake and someone lost their life. Like Jeff Hardy, I guess, fortunately hasn't gotten to that point, and you almost want to say yet, which is sad to say, but like wrestling's not helping at this point. I don't know what does. I interviewed him a year or so ago, and he seemed to be cleaning things up, seemed to be turning it around, but something's not right now. And, it definitely is a sickness.
Yeah, and I mean, AEW and Tony Khan put out their statement where they said, hey, these are the parameters for you to potentially return. Yeah, I don't need to see another Swanton, man. Like, take care of yourself. Like, you have given the world of professional wrestling, you have given the fans of professional wrestling more than enough. Like, take care of yourself, man. Like, just take care of yourself, because I personally, as a wrestling fan, like, I want you to be able to enjoy some of the some of the flowers that are going to be given to you as you continue to get older. WWE will bring you back for the Hall of Fame. AEW, I'm sure will keep you around. Just like, take care of yourself, whatever that means. Just take care of yourself. That's what I hope for Jeff Hardy. That's all I can say about Jeff is I hope he gets better, and I hope he can find a way to take care of himself and find some sort of peace.
All right, what's next?
Yeah, we teased it a little bit with our guest. We teased number 3 on the 3 count with Jeff Cobb. He made his prediction. He thinks we're seeing a new world champ tomorrow night, Brian.
All right, so I'll change it up a little bit for you guys. What % chance do you put on the fact that Riddle is taking home the world titles, plural, tomorrow night on SmackDown?
I mean, I appreciate Jeff's, confidence in his boy, but it's 0. Like, it is. It is.
Gabe wouldn't say that Jeff Cobb's face, though. He waited to see that 0.
Well, yeah. I mean, you see the size of Jeff Cobb? I'm terrified. Terrified of him. Yes, sir. Yes, Mr. Cobb. Yes, I absolutely agree, Mr. Cobb. Riddle is going to be the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world, without a doubt.
I mean, so why is Roman wrestling Riddle? Why do you need that on TV? How come that's not on pay-per-view?
According to Dave Meltzer, part of the reason is because they don't really value those premium live events, whereas they already got Peacock. Like, you're going to watch it, they're already whatever, but you get some extra eyes on SmackDown and you get that ratings pop tomorrow night. Like, they're going to value that more than say, hey, come watch Money in the Bank, which hopefully people are going to watch for actual Money in the Bank. So that's according to Meltzer.
Okay. This is such a long
also,
conversation.
Riddle loses, he cannot challenge Roman for the titles anymore. It's the stip they have.
So boy, it looked like a Tony Khan stipulation, right? Cody will never compete for the championship again. Okay, so, but Gabe, Brian, here's what you do. Orton more than likely is going to be out for the rest of the year, and they're trying to push Riddle. Thank you for pushing Riddle. I got no problem with that. But you don't need this match on Friday. I want to build toward. I want more wins for Riddle to say that maybe it's the main event of SummerSlam. I'm totally fine with that. Yeah. But just build it. You don't need it. Like, again, you're against the Stanley Cup Final or you're against other. You don't need to bury that on a Friday night. I don't need to see that then. Give me something that I can sink my teeth into by saying, okay, in Nashville and SummerSlam, that's going to be the main event because Riddle won all these matches leading up to SummerSlam. At least it's something. Now, if you're going to close the door on Riddle and say he'll never be able to compete for the championships again, then I can't see him as a singles champion ever again. Why not? I mean, he's over. So why would
it's only with Roman as the champ. That was their out. They said Roman as the champ. So there's their out there.
Let's be honest. I mean, Riddle's not exactly young. Like, he's not. I mean, I know he plays a character that seems a little bit younger, but he is not actually himself like this young 20-year-old up and coming guy. No, he's in his mid-30s. And when are the belts actually going to come off of Roman? Like, right. You can throw that stipulation on there and be like, okay, maybe Riddle at some point. Man, Riddle's hot right now. You could ride him. I'm not saying he should beat Roman Reigns, but yeah, throwing that stipulation on there seems to be just a meaningless stipulation. And again, makes you kind of, it telegraphs to me the outcome, even though it was already telegraphed. Like, if I already know that he's not going to win, why am I going to watch SmackDown?
I don't like that stip. That stip is not necessary. Just if you're going to have the match, have the match. I just think again, you're not against anything. It's Friday Night SmackDown, right? I mean, you don't have to do this, but you want to do it, that's fine. But the traditional wrestling fan in me says that you put that on a pay-per-view so I can look forward to it. Now, still, hey, Roman would still get over, but I know that stipulation is not necessary for this match. And why can't I wish it was for like one of the championships, because at least we'd have another world champion around there,
Correct.
right? Someone's got to be around every week. But what do I know?
That's the part that I just can't seem to understand or wrap my head around about the WWE unifying these two titles. And we saw it before. Becky Lynch walked out of WrestleMania as Becky Two Belts not that long ago. And then she dropped one and then kept the other. Had to wrestle 2 matches in one night, 2 different
But she was
title
on
defenses.
TV doing that. Tomorrow night is the first time Roman's defending since Mania. It's the end of June.
But he's defending both. Like, why can't we do? Why can't? Again, presumably, the reason you unify them is so you can get your hottest star, your biggest star on both programs, on both Raw and SmackDown. And we haven't seen Roman on much of WWE, premium live events, television, anything since WrestleMania because of the new contract that he has. But like, why can't you split these so at least we have one champion who's going to be consistently there? That's why you could get away with it when you had Brock, because he was only taking one title. I can't. Someone make it make sense. That's all I'm asking.
Okay, so we all agree it's 0% that Riddle will win the championships, correct?
Correct.
If he wins the championships, we're going to be on the air on Friday night.
Yep.
It could be at a bowling alley. It could be at a bar.
Yep.
It could be a dinner. It could be with Gabe's future in-laws. Whatever, right? You just fire it up, Brian. Fire it up. If he wins the championship, that'll be breaking news. Okay, so
that is true.
We'll guarantee. Can we guarantee you that?
Yes,
guarantee
100%. I am 100% with you.
I'll be at the movies on Friday night. Okay. I will step out of the theater. Actually, I'll broadcast from the theater, and and we will have a GKW pop-up show again if he wins the championships.
The people around Jay Hood just hushing him as he's trying to watch Top Gun.
That's what's gonna happen. Honest to God, wherever we are, Brian, fire it up. You're gonna be with your kids at the pool. Close the pool. Fire it up. Let's go. Let's go. Riddle's the champion, damn it. Let's go.
Get excited. The Riddle run. I mean, they put themselves in this corner. It's on them. Like, they obviously didn't know Roman was taking times off, right? Like, I guess it's a 2-week thing is how your time off requests work in the WWE. He just gave him a heads up 2 weeks before. That was okay. Like, they put themselves in this position. And here we are.
I just, and here's, AEW is not in a position to really take advantage either of Roman not being there recently, because, again, as exciting as the pay-per-view for Forbidden Door will be, it'll be a really good pay-per-view, but the build for it has been very all over the place, confusing. I'm trying to put pieces together as it happens. Like, I would have to look up because who Jericho is fighting with and against.
Yeah.
Because he came out last night and the way they interrupted, and then he kind of stumbled through who he's going to be fighting with and the new members of the Jericho Appreciation Society. It was all very convoluted. Like, and that's just kind of been the build to Forbidden Door. Again, once that pay-per-view starts and you let the wrestlers do their thing in the ring, I'm sure I'm going to be entertained. But that's not to say that the build to it was good. Much like, hey, I was entertained by WrestleMania Backlash for the most part. That was fun. Same thing with Hell in a Cell, especially when Cody, came out and wrestled with the torn pec. It was entertaining. Again, that doesn't mean that the build to it was good. And that's where I'm at right now with Forbidden Door. They can't take advantage of the missteps WWE is having because they're having their own missteps.
Yeah, and to add to that, we go to news and notes, a couple things here, AEW related. Last night, the ratings for Dynamite, 761,000. That's down 20% from last week. Their lowest number since October. They still were number 2 on cable, so I guess something there. And then Forbidden Door stuff, Andrade and Lucha Bros not allowed to appear due to their AAA and CML relationship, and also a couple matches announced last night. Jay White will defend the IWGP World title. We don't know against who. Ospreay will defend the IWGP US title against Orange Cassidy. And then they also added Thunder Rosa, Toni Storm, the AEW Women's title will come at Forbidden Door. So a lot of AEW news and notes. Just want to throw those out there.
Yeah, so with Jay White, I would imagine that's Hangman Page, right? Based on what we saw in St. Louis at Dynamite. We imagine, right?
I mean, what he said was no, it's not. It's not him and it's not Cole.
So,
Okay.
I mean, that means it could only be one person then, right? A returning
that?
Kenny?
Yeah, but like everything says he's not ready yet.
And especially because, the pay-per-view's 10 days away. So, like, to
Right.
just...
I mean, the one name I throw out just from a sheer fantasy standpoint, and really there's no build at all, is Joe.
Yeah. I
won't complain.
Guys, listen. You just can't pause your momentum in AEW for this.
Yeah.
And the reason why is pretty simple. As much as all three of us know something about New Japan or seen some of the pay-per-views and know about G1, again, you have to be able to connect to a greater audience than just people that are on the inside. The New Japan does not have a timely weekly show. They've got something on Access TV that's 2 or 3 weeks behind, but it's not like every week where you can see Raw, SmackDown, Dynamite, to be able to see Rampage, even Impact. At least it's on TV where you can find it. I mean, with New Japan, I'm sure the people in St. Louis was watching like, okay, so who is this now? And who's the United? Like you can't do that. So all the momentum you have with AEW, whatever it is, right? You stop it for New Japan, which is, for some people, a niche product.
Well, and look, I understand the appeal of it because you were able to, and now you get to boast that you sold out the United Center without announcing a damn match. Like, tickets for it went like that. But now it's coming at the cost, you're right, of your television product at a very important point, by the way, with a merger happening and you just had their big show in Los Angeles. And it seems that's a very important point to pause your product. And I mean, I don't think this is CM Punk related because they were still doing, prior to CM Punk arriving last September, they were, 850, 900. Like, this dipped big. And the only thing that you can point to is the confusion around what Forbidden Door is going to be.
And also, like, they talk about competition. The 939,000 a week ago was against the NBA Finals. Last night, the Stanley Cup's on, but like, hockey is what it is in this country. Like, that shouldn't really be pulling from it. Like, that is a big dip, and I think it is, reason for concern. And everyone always jokes like, oh, big announcement next week, big surprise. But they have to be concerned, and we talked about it, whereas, the three of us that are watching a lot of wrestling, talking a lot of wrestling, this is very inside. Like, we talked about it a lot with Bischoff's comment, and I was one saying, like, no, it's whatever, it's fine. But it's somehow, like, narrow casted even more now. Like, there are guys showing up the last couple of weeks, I don't know who they are. And, just seeing that stuff, like, I could understand being a casual fan and be like, I don't want to watch this. Like, I've never seen these guys. Like, I'll catch you in a month. And then hopefully, it's back to normal then. So it's interesting to see. Obviously, it's only one more week of build, but curious to see how they respond to it.
Yeah. And as far as St. Louis is concerned, traditional, fine wrestling town. I have friends of mine from St. Louis, and I said, hey, you going to AEW? No, the Cardinals playing the Pirates. I'm like, so you're going to Busch instead? Like, yeah, Cardinals are in town because it means that much in that town, right?
Yeah, right.
Baseball means everything in St. Louis. I'm like, yeah, but at the arena, nah, I'm going to a Cardinal game. I don't know why AEW ran against the Cardinals. I don't know why they did that, but they did. So it just the action's fine, and Gabe is 100% right. As we always say on this show, we always say the builds don't make sense, but once it's in the ring, it's going to be fine. I don't know why Tony Khan's doing this because I just think that you had momentum going with AEW, and now for this pet project with New Japan, you're doing this, and you got 50 or 75 wrestlers in the back, and they're like, well, I'd be out there, but sorry, some guy from New Japan's out there, or here comes a tag team, or here comes a female wrestler that no one's ever seen, so I got to take a back seat. So, I mean, this is what they're doing. We'll see.
Well, I'll throw this out there. The last time we talked big AEW was the MJF stuff. Like, are they relying on that being in the back pocket? Forbidden Door happens, you're done with New Japan. That Wednesday, somehow you progress MJF. Like, he's back out there again. And you get some more eyes on you that way and get to say, hey, this is us. This is who we are. Let's go back and start that momentum again.
I mean, selfishly,
I suppose, yeah.
Selfishly, I hope he comes out because I'm going to be there on Wednesday in
Oh, there you
Milwaukee.
go.
Like, selfishly, I hope they bring out MJF. That'd be fantastic. I'd be all in on that. That'd be great. Unfortunately, I don't think that's going to be the case. Do we have any other news and notes we need to get to, Brian?
Yeah, the other one to throw out there, we sort of talked on it. Fightful reporting Randy Orton reportedly out for the rest of 2022.
Man,
Tough.
so a lot of injuries in wrestling. I mean, we're not even to July 1st yet, and we've got
Yeah.
a litany of injuries, including Randy Orton. But you're going to get that with a veteran wrestler. CM Punk before this, and a number of other ones. So, but again, with Orton's injury, Riddle has an opportunity to shine as a single.
Yeah, and it just makes the return of Cena that much bigger in a couple of weeks for WWE. And I guess we still don't know if it's a one-time thing for Cena, if he's going to be around. So I think, again, with Randy Orton, who they're building as potentially a big babyface to go up against Roman Reigns at one of these big shows that they're building towards, it's going to be interesting to see how they handle that going forward, especially after tomorrow night's match against Riddle. What was your match of the week?
Yes.
What do you got, Jay Hood?
Match of the week? Well, it's Dax against Ospreay. I think that's number one on my list. I just think that the wrestling internet community is having this big push for Dax to be the wrestler of the year already, and he's had some phenomenal matches. It's not about him losing or winning. It's just about him just dedicating matches to Bret Hart and to pure wrestling fans. Him and Ospreay that was fantastic. But to be in the first hour of the card, that was an amazing, amazing match.
Yeah,
I thought they would open with it. I thought they were going to open with it, to be honest, because you knew that the ladder match was going to be the main event. So a lot of times when they have kind of those two big matches, they'll open with the one. I was surprised they didn't open with Dax versus Ospreay.
Yeah, I guess they put so much into the hair versus hair, but yeah, that match, Dax and Ospreay, and Dax is so good that those false finishes, he had me was what was Ospreay going to lose to Dax on a Dynamite? He had me believing that. He hooked me enough to believe that was going to happen. That was an outstanding match.
Why you got to take out Dax like that? He's going to lose to Dax on a Wednesday?
It's Ospreay.
Dax is the wrestler of the year.
It's funny because my two top matches is Dax and Ospreay, and then the 6-man trios match with FTR and Trent Beretta against the Aussie Open and Will Ospreay. I'm going to have to do a deep dive on the Aussie Open because I loved what I saw there. Those two. Good Lord. Those are monsters.
Yeah.
So, and then Sheamus and McIntyre, I thought had a good match too. On SmackDown.
All right. It's nice of you to throw them a bone. We haven't seen that one before.
I'm trying to read your face. Is he bluffing? Is he actually?
No.
Okay.
It's here.
Okay.
No, it's right here.
Okay.
It's Sheamus and McIntyre because they were sweaty and they were beating the hell out of each other. And so I'm like, yeah, you know what? Pretty good physical match. Not bad.
I like it.
Cool. All right.
I like it. All right. We understand it's been a little bit of a longer episode of GKW. Before we go, I mean, we've been waiting around for an hour and 2 minutes, 38 seconds now for Brian Rowitz's review of the pay-per-view that everybody was talking about over the weekend. NWA Always, with a Z, ready.
So I'm going to start with, I want to say no offense, but I think there's only offense is the way it sort of comes off. Yeah, that was painful to watch. The show was way too long. It was over 3.5 hours. I enjoyed NXT's In Your House more than it.
Ooh,
it was sloppy.
Wow.
There literally were two different moments in this 3.5 hour show where a guy came off the top rope and his boot got caught in the top turnbuckle. Damian Sandow or Aaron Stevens at the literally was stuck because his boot was stuck on the top turnbuckle.
It was his retirement match. He had to go out like that?
That happened twice. We had a cameraman fall down on an entrance.
The cameraman fell down.
Yes. He was backpedaling and down the camera went.
What? That can't happen in Knoxville. Did that happen in Knoxville, Tennessee? A guy fell down? A cameraman? Good God.
You can't do that. Tim Storm at the announce desk was literally in the dark. I don't know if the light went out or something, but he's in the dark. I had to look up if it was part of his angle or a gimmick or something. There was so much. We talked about Yeah, like, oh, he's the guy in the dark. I don't know.
Oh, man.
No, that's
Billy-
all you
Billy-
need to know about
Okay.
NWA is that Brian could think that was a gimmick for somebody. He's just like, I guess he broadcasts in the dark. That's what he does. That's his thing.
Color analyst Tim Storm broadcast in the dark. Boy, Billy Corrigan is never going to invite you to a concert.
No, I don't
Ever
think
again.
so. I
Oh
mean,
my
we talk
God.
about too many belts. There were 8 title matches. They have 7 titles. They had 2 junior championship matches. There were 7 titles in the NWA. Like, that's what, yeah, there was I don't even remember what they called it, but it's sort of a Money in the Bank-esque cash-in from Colby Carino. So Homicide defended his title twice on Sunday or Saturday, whenever the heck it was. Yeah, that was pretty much it. Not good. No.
But what about Trevor Murdoch is the NWA champion again, right?
Yeah, you had an hour to figure that out for Ryder to come out, which they were teasing all night that he was going to be in the main event. So we talk about lying to fans, and then he comes out, gives up the title, but they do a good 10 minutes of Corgan and Ryder talking to each other about how he needs to give it up, but off mic. Like, they're just sitting there talking in the ring, and the announcer's like, oh, you can see, like, he's very bothered. He doesn't want to give it up. And then 4 different guys come out, and they have a 4-way for the title. Yeah. I almost purchased their, whatever they call it, like, it's $50 for the year, and you get every pay-per-view. And I'm like, oh, maybe it's worth it to do that. And I was like, let me just buy the one. Great financial decision by me. That I left that saying, like, I'm glad I'm not going to watch it anymore.
Maybe we need to get a GKW account, and that's going to be punishment. We're going to have to rotate through their pay-per-views. It's going to be punishment for one of us that will have to watch NWA, whatever their next pay-per-view is.
Yeah. So,
lastly, a couple of notes. Vikram, who's always there for us, that continues to watch our show on YouTube and listen to the podcast at Good Karma Wrestling, says, what about Lashley and Roman for SummerSlam? That seems likely, right?
I guess.
Well, it's either Lashley or it's McIntyre, right? Like, those are the only.
But I thought they're saving McIntyre for Europe.
Oh yeah, they're gonna. That's right. So it's got to be Lashley for SummerSlam. Has to be, because if Randy Orton's out of the picture, there's literally nobody else unless they do John Cena.
I think Jake says probably a long shot, but could he be taking back the company as a private, I guess, owner? Could that be a last-ditch effort? No, I mean, I think Gabe had it right. Like, he's going to be in the job or be the CEO and chairman of the company as long as he wants.
Yeah, because he has the controlling interest. And as Brian said, I mean, the only way he gets ousted, and this is if the company is public, if it's the company's private, if NBC Universal or Fox start pressuring him about the TV deals, about the Peacock deal, that's the only way he would get forced out, is if it would financially impact the company to the point where he would go. But even then, man, like, I don't know, Vince just might be like, I'll figure it out. I'll do something else. Like, and
yeah, he'll run the NWA. That'll be his new toy.
He'll run the NWA. I love the idea that they've had analysts in the dark as a gimmick. That is the best right there. That is the freaking best. I love that.
What did you type into Google? I don't even know. Like,
I think it was something along the lines of Tim Storm in the dark, and nothing came up. So
it could be his gimmick. We don't know. It could be. Who could really say for sure? Who knows for sure?
By the way, how brutal is the Velvet Sky on the broadcast?
Yeah,
brutal.
Every part of it, like
brutal.
I don't know. I don't know how. I'm glad I'm all for more options for wrestling fans, but that ain't my cup of tea.
Well, we won't make Brian watch NWA this week, although, maybe we will in the future, and you can look forward to more reviews from Brian Rowe. It's going to be, once again, you never know. It seems like big news comes out each and every week. The one thing you do know for sure is next Thursday, we will be right here talking about it